It is well known that alcohol consumption in Australia is inextricably linked to sport, celebrations and, truth to be said, everyday life. It is not a glass of wine with dinner, as is common in many countries around the world, but rather a jug of sangria for a Sunday session, many cans of beer for a rugby game, or a bottle of wine for a night out, and if you don't drink, it will cause suspicion. Compared to other Australian sites, the facts about alcohol are even worse in Western Australia. The West teenagers drink 2 litres more than the Australian average. So there has been a strong discussion recently in WA communities about whether the state government should raise the legal drinking age to 21 to solve the binge drinking problem. This report looks into the definition of binge drinking, the social cost, consequence, and discovery that West Australians aren't really convinced the problem can be easily fixed by raising the legal drinking age limit to 21. Although the impact and the social cost of binge drinking has become more than painfully clear, it seems that the public doesn't agree with lifting the legal drinking age to 21 can help solving the problem. We have surveyed 100 people in Perth and the results are interesting. Despite 79% of our interviewees agreed that WA is facing a serious binge drinking problem, and 74% of our respondents believe that the current state laws are not enough to stop binge drinking, only 38% of our interviewees support raising the legal drinking age to 21, with 46% disagrees and 16% maybes. Age groups under 18s consider themselves to be mature to drink, despite having a divided opinion on the topic of raising the legal drinking age. Our research has also revealed that most young adults aged between 18 to 30 don't believe in raising the current legal drinking age, but felt more education programs are needed to reduce binge drinking. While most respondents over 31 years old are concerned about the effects of alcohol and agree raising the legal drinking age to 21. The term binge drinking is defined as heavily consuming an alcoholic drink in a short period of time, medically known as alcoholic intoxication disorder, but more commonly as getting drunk. However, there are different definitions of how many standard drinks a person has to drink before they can be classified as binge drinking. Due to the diverse culture around the world, the size of the drink and different strengths in different types of alcoholic beverages. Steve Alsop, an expert from Curtin University's National Drug Research Institute, further explains the term binge drinking.
There's no real simple definition of binge drinking. In fact, it's a term that a lot of us don't really like. I prefer the term heavy episodic drinking. Now, we know that for adults the recommended limits for low-risk drinking is 4 drinks or less on any single occasion. We don't know what the risk is for underage people. We simply don't know what the level is. But if we used the NHMRC, the National Health and Medical Research Council guideline, we would say that drinking 5 standard drinks or more on a single day would represent heavy drinking by any measure, and heavy drinking particularly for young people.
According to the Australian Bureau of Statistic Research about nationwide alcohol consumption, binge drinking is more than 7 standard drinks for men and more than 5 standard drinks for women. National Health and Medical Research Council in Australia defines binge drinking as over 4 standard drinks for men and 2 standard drinks for women per day. Excessive drinking in Australia is perceived to be a common part of the culture. Alcohol is a widely available substance and is strongly associated with most social, recreational and celebratory events. This culture, as it is logical and expected, passes from elders to younger. Mission Australia's national survey of young Australians aged 11 to 24 listed alcohol and drugs as the second top issue facing Australia today. In order to show the seriousness of the binge drinking excess amount, State Independent MP for Alpha Cove, Dr. Janet Woolard, has brought in a trolley filled with alcoholic beverages to give everyone a clear idea about how much an average Australian above 15 years old consumes per year.
In this room today, we have a trolley showing you the number of standard drinks that the average Australian above 15 years of age drinks on top of the safe level of drinking. You know, this is on top of, if we brought in the amount that they're actually drinking, which have more than 3 of those trolleys in here. This is just the excess.
A very representative quote from a research called Speaking Out about reducing alcohol-related harm on children and young people that made the Commissioner for Children and Young People, Michelle Scott, saying, "The problem is with the culture. Australia is beer in one hand." This research also proves that young people's drinking is influenced by a combination of 4 factors: families, peers, school, and the media. More than half, which is 51% of young people who participate on the survey for this research, nominate that parents is the most significant influence, followed by friends, which is 46%, and morals, which is 23%. Furthermore, West Australians have one more reason to worry, as WA has the world's 10th highest of alcohol consumption per capita. Numbers always reveal the hard reality and speak the truth. World Health Organization claims that West Australian teenager under the age of 15 consumes an average of 12.4 litres of alcohol per year, 2 litres more than the Australian average, which is 10.4 litres. Dr. Janet Woolard, referring to that number, said,
This is another chart showing that excess. It's showing, you know, the amount of beer that is drunk. In addition, you know, we know that in Australia, the alcohol that is drunk, 44% of the alcohol drunk is in terms of beer. I've got my glasses on, 36% is in terms of wine. 6.7% premixes, and 12% spirits.
Encouragingly, the number of West Australian school students aged 12 to 17 years who have never consumed alcohol increased from 12.3% in 2005 to 15.9% to 2008, according to WA government statistics, but 84% of them had consumed alcohol at some time, with 46% obtaining it from their parents. In detail, 28% of West Australian school students aged 12 to 17-year-olds consumed alcohol in the past week, while 24.3% of them drank at level considered to place adults at risk of short-term harm. In addition, rates of alcohol-related harm in young people have increased significantly at recent years, especially at people aged 16 to 24-year-olds. Alcohol consumption at an early age is very damaging. It can cause physical, social, financial, and legal problems, and also highly increase the chance of appearing greater problems in later life, such as chronic offending behavior and mental health problems. Violent behavior and fighting is among the cruelest results of binge drinking, if not the most cruel. That's why, unfortunately, discussing about binge drinking obliges us to refer to violence, and it is something really related to alcohol consumption, especially when speaking about the West Australian case. According to a research made in Perth some weeks ago by the Commissioner for Children and Young People, Michelle Scott, young West Australians are really worried about binge drinkers' violent behaviour. After the survey, researchers concluded that violence was the most frequent cited concerns from young people. More than 1 in 3 young people who undertook the online survey nominated fighting, violence, and physical or verbal abuse as one of their biggest worries about people drinking alcohol. The principal concern was violence or abuse from strangers who had been drinking. In any case, statistics are not necessary for somebody to realize the importance of that issue. A simple walk in Northbridge early Saturday morning would be enough to convince anyone about how violent drunk people can be. Verbal abuse is in the best case, violent fighting is in the worst. To make things worse, sometimes the fights are even between friends. Your friend can turn on you, get into a fight with you, or betray you, said a young male drinker to the researchers, making clear that harmful drinking does not discriminate the aftermath. All that proves a big part of the young Aussies is aware of what alcohol consumption could potentially cause. Losing your control because of drinking is among the main reasons that are responsible for these famous party fights, and it seems that West Australians people know that. But binge drinkers aren't taking only the risk of get embroiled in a fight when they are drinking. The threats of getting themselves injured anyhow is always there, as they lose control and as statistics demonstrates. A survey made in Canberra in 2005 by the Australian Bureau of Statistics titled Alcohol Consumption in Australia, a Snapshot, reveals that 25% of the 18 to 24 age people who participated in the survey has experienced an event while under influence of alcohol which resulted in injury in the 4 weeks prior to the National Health Survey interview. For those 18 to 24 years old, 1.7% of males and 1.5% of females reported having recent injuries while under the influence of alcohol. Australian society pays expensive costs for its teenagers' drinking habit, both economically and socially. One look to the MBF statistics only for the year 2007 convinced us that the health cost is really important. The same survey gives us also a very clean image of the Australian case in terms of binge drinking, only in 2007, so the Australian state was in the tragic position to have one teenager dead each week from the risky use of alcohol, when at the same time 1 in 5 teenagers reported drinking weekly. Of course, all these sad numbers are not coming suddenly from nowhere. In opposite are included to a general drinking culture of a society in which 28% of young people aged 14 to 19 report consuming alcohol at a risk or high risk level for a short-term harm within the last month. After surpassing the initial shock of having one teenager dead each week because of the alcohol consumption, we should think of the social impact of these numbers. Without doubt, these statistics can't be an honor for a country which is claiming is offering its citizens the most highest living standards in the world. Furthermore, these records demonstrate the inefficiency of the measure taken by the Australian state in order to reduce the alcohol consumption. Expensive alcohol drink prices, prohibition for the teenagers to buy alcohol, permission for entrance in nightclub only from 18-year-old and above, etc. On the other hand, the state is spending a huge amount of money for its health system cost. The survey Alcohol Consumption in Australia, a snapshot, again shows what the Australian state spends mainly for the medical care of its binge drinkers. In 7 years, from 1998 to 1999 to 2004 to 2005, the overall number of hospital separation diagnoses of mental and behavioral disorder due to alcohol increased from 23,490 to 35,152. The number per 1,000 of population increased by 39% for all ages during that time period. In 1998, the largest number of alcohol-related hospital separations among both men and women was due to alcoholism and alcoholic liver cirrhosis. The second largest number was due to road injuries for men and cancer for women. It has been estimated that 31,132 Australians died from alcohol-caused disease and injuries between 1992 to 2001. Of these, 75% were male and 25% female. From 1993 to 1994 to 2000 and 2001, there were over 500,000 hospitalizations due to risky and high-risk drinking in Australia. At the community level, the estimated economic cost of alcohol misuse to the Australian community in 1998 to 1999 totaled 7.6 billion Australian dollars, and this estimate includes associated factors such as crime and violence, treatment costs, loss of productivity, and premature death. Independent State Member for Alvocove Dr. Janet Woolard, who tabled the report Alcohol, Reducing the Harm and Curbing the Culture of Excess, was asked by journalists during a media conference whether rising the legal drinking age is an idealistic crusade. She responded saying there is evidence from the United States of lowering the legal drinking age from 21 down to 18, resulting in a huge increase on alcohol-related road accidents. She then went on and said that a child's brain development can be affected by alcohol, particularly in male due to their development age ranging up until they are 23 years old. She recommends the government should put out a discussion paper to encourage the community to decide whether they would like to see a gradual change on this issue.
It's happening with our 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. We now have the evidence, and we know that in the future we are going to be paying as a community for the damage that is done by alcohol from people drinking at that younger age.
However, politicians from both major political parties, Labour and Liberal, disagrees the plan to raising the legal drinking age to 21. In June this year, the WA Premier Colin Barnett was asked by journalists during the interview after the binge drinking report regarding this subject. He responded saying,
"Can I say I and the government do not support that. I don't think you can wind back history in that way. I think 18 is the age of majority, it's the age of maturity in our country, and I think we should keep to that. People can vote, they can go into the armed services, they're treated as an adult under law, and I think that should be the drinking age. However, I don't mind a debate taking place."
The Shadow Health Minister Roger Cook has also expressed that the Labour Party does not support this act, but he believes that there is a responsibility and education needs to be carried out to promote a sensible drinking culture. Mr. Cook also mentioned there is a traditional mindset view on this matter and admits there are more and more medical evidence upcoming to confront policymakers to debate about the age-raising issue.
We in the Labor Party don't support that recommendation. We think it's wise, and there are some very worthy recommendations in that report, but that raising the drinking age from 18 to 21 isn't one of those issues that we would actually support.
The legal drinking age discussion also led to the debate of raising the price of alcoholic beverages in order to stop more teenagers from buying them. Both Labour Shadow Health Minister Roger Cook and Independent State MP Dr. Janet Woolard supported the move. She said the evidence about the alcohol harm is clear and the government should take action now. While Mr. Cook also believed that the regulation on alcohol licensed premises, bottle shops and drinking traditions in clubs and pubs should be looked at by the state government.
I think the biggest impact upon the consumption patterns that we have in drinking at the moment is the discounting in our bottle shops and the pub culture of our community, which is when you're inside a bar you can drink to your heart's content. We've got to actually overcome these approaches. One, because they're encouraging a binge drinking culture, and two, simply because it's unhealthy. So we need to look at two things. One, actually influencing the way that we sell alcohol to people in bottle shops, and two, look at the drinking culture inside our pubs and clubs.
While Dr. Woolard says that alcohol is getting so cheap and accessible that something needs to be done, as she claimed that there are more and more people are harmed because of alcohol abuse.
They are buying alcohol cheaper than they can buy water, they can buy Coke. We have to do something to stop this.
At the same time, social workers in Perth have their own opinions on this issue. Ben Tanoa is one of the youth workers in the Coburn Youth Centre and a leader for the youth group in the church at Lake. He often counsels teenagers who have binge drinking problems. Although Ben is optimistic about rising the legal drinking age can make buying alcohol harder for teenagers, he believes that more should be done, including educating the adults and parents about the harm of alcohol abuse.
A lot of the kids that I work with, their parents actually allow them to drink at home, thinking that that's a safe place to drink, but they don't realise that they start drinking at home and then they'll take it on to other places and streets, and if they're not educated, if the parents aren't educated on how to teach their young people how to drink responsibly, then yeah, you're going to end up with binge drinking and young people getting in a lot of trouble.
Apart from the alcohol pricing, the Australian parents' involvement into their children's binge drinking habit were also brought into the spotlight, as many dads and mums are unaware that their children are drinking alcohol without their supervision. In an attempt to solve this problem, Dr. Woolard has recommended in the report about setting up a legislation that alcohol drinks can only be provided in a party with parents' consent, which is carried out in some other states and countries to ensure parents' knowledge in this area.
What we would like to see is our legislation modified so that, again, parents are aware of what's happening with their children.
Dr. Woolard has also said there is evidence about parents' traditional education method on providing a glass of alcohol in special occasion can lead their children into alcohol dependent few years later. She felt that the government should put the evidence on the table so the whole community can decide whether changes should be made.
Now that the evidence is there, most parents, a lot of parents used to think, 5 or 6 years ago, that the best way to stop our children having problems with alcohol is to give them, sips of alcohol, maybe a glass of alcohol at home as part of the family meal. But what the evidence now shows is that those children who, 12, 13, 14 years of age, who are given that glass of alcohol with dinner or on special occasions, 3 or 4 years later, those children are becoming the binge drinkers. And then, 3 or 4 years after that, those children are becoming alcohol dependent.
So what we should answer to the question of raising the legal drinking age limit, yes or no? The investigation leads us to a quite clear answer. You can't simply say yes or no to such complicated question like the underage binge drinking, especially to the Australian case, as long as drinking is extremely connected with the culture and the social events. More things are needed than simply raising the age limit. There is no doubt that something needs to change. Social effects and health costs due to underage alcohol consumption are very high, as we proved previously in our article, and in some cases the price is premature death. By just raising the age limit law, the statistic of alcohol-related driving accidents, bad social behavior and hospitalization of youngers will decrease, but in the same time the number of legal binge drinkers will be increasing continuously. Taking in mind our survey, you will easily understand that public opinion is divided. Most people consider that whichever law will be taken should be combined with education from an early age. Otherwise, you end up having one more law that nobody respects. There's a need education innovation, and parents as well should change the way they see alcohol and the upbringing of their children in order to create a new anti-alcoholic mentality. Thanks to that, through the circle of life, this mentality will pass on to the next generations.
My sense is an effective approach to alcohol will actually cover a broad range of strategies. Some people claim that what we simply need to do is educate young people. Now, of course, it is important that we provide quality education to young people, but education on its own, while society becomes more and more awash with easily available alcohol, education alone will have little impact in that context.